You ever think about quitting?
It's the combat of life hammering the snot out of you.
Well, stand by, dig in deep, and get ready to get fired up with us.
Welcome to the Team Never Quit podcast, the #1 podcast that inspires you to fight on. I'm your host, David Rutherford, here with Mr. Never Quit himself, Marcus Luttrell.
Our mission is to help you embrace the suck of life, to teach you the values of working your ass off, and to interview the most hard-charging people on planet Earth.
We know life is hard. It's time for you to suck it up, Buttercup, and let us teach you to persevere in every environment imaginable by sharing real-world lessons learned by those who never quit. That's right. It's time, Marcus, for us to help them defeat the negative insurgency in their lives.
You fire me up. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's roll.
Let's roll.
Dun 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 dun.
Marcus, when you hear me say that, what does that make you think about?
You know, the head of the family's coming into the room.
Right?
Oh.
Right? It's presidential
right.
at its nature and its core. Well, let me talk to you about
family.
this.
You know that the first family is coming into if you look at America as the family that we elect into the White House as the first family, and
then it cascades down from there.
All the way down through the House and the Senate, the crazy uncles, aunts and uncles, and then it just kind of boils on down into all of us.
I like that. The family of politics.
Yeah, it's our elected first, because we don't have kings and queens, but we do have American families, and that's what this thing runs off of, is just the backs of the American people. And we're all one big family, whether we like it or not, man, good, bad, and indifferent. And then the ones, when we come collectively to pick somebody to represent all of us, or one, now it's like one section of, it's supposed to be all of us, right?
Right.
The collective into one house.
Once it's established through an election, a democratic election.
Sure. That's why they get scrutinized so hard, because you want to make sure that we don't throw somebody up there that we're like,
the black sheep.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Because the world looks at us. It's harder to come down on somebody and talk as much if you think of them as family. Like, oh yeah, it's just kind of how.
That's a good way to look at it. Man, you could stop so much of the negativity if we looked at it like that. Whereas if the election after the election happens, whether you win or you lose, and you're like, all right, that's my crazy Uncle Bob in there now. You know what? I'm going to get behind him, try and support him and whatever. Let me tell you what we got today. What we got today is we got one of our family, one of our brothers.
Yeah, because that's how we are in the military. That's how we survive in the military.
Totally.
Everything we join together, they tell us we're the family. You got
our tribe, our family, how we're connected to one another, our brothers that we die with on the battlefield.
Come from different parts of this country, come up in the school systems like we do, or even if they don't, but it's the collective, and you get all those. The great part about the military, it's a melting pot of the country. So when we have to work together, we have to assimilate and learn how to thrive and survive. And if we can do it, the entire country can do it, because we're made up of and we're under the hardest
pressure, the stress of war.
Keep this country going, the protection of it.
Yes.
And I don't know, maybe it's that makes us assimilate so easy, just that concept of it, to the give and take of getting along with each other. Because after a while, you just forget about it. I mean, yeah, the rank's there and the uniform's there, but I mean, I don't ever think about it like, oh, he's from Florida.
No.
It's not it at all.
Although you do make it abundantly clear that I'm not from Texas.
I do that.
You do.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Teach that in Texas history.
I can be like your second cousin.
It's like having a birth defect.
Oh man, that hurt. That's bad.
Still related, to just a little bit not. Well, you're just not quite right.
That hurts. But I'll tell you what I love about what you're saying, Marcus, and because of that assimilation, because of that ability to look past certain differences, right? And our ability to work together, to find solutions. That's why I think it's critical that more of us decide to go into politics like our guest today is deciding to.
Absolutely.
So one of the statistics that we were able to find, which I thought, Marcus, was telltaling, right? Of the country, everything, was in 1971, 72. 72 is a glorious year, by the way. In 1971, 72, 78% of the Senate had military service. 72% of the House had military service. Today, 2018, only 20% of Congress has military service. What do you think about that?
Baby boomers, right? Their war messed them up.
Think so.
You look back in and you start studying history and all the generations and what wars they had to fight, and it's kind of that when you saw the first break in the whole...
The counterculture revolution, man. Recognizing that our projection of power might not be the best thing for the country. And so there was that internal strife. What ultimately
That's what you're seeing now. They're the average age is in Congress is 57 and in the Senate it's 61. So
that's them.
That's them.
That's them.
Yep.
So
but there's something different. I mean, you're talking about that 78 was the peak of veteran participation in
71, 72,
Congress,
78%
in the Congress. And
now
now
I'm saying, yeah,
we are 17 years into the longest running conflict, war, multi-war, whatever you want to call this that we're in. And we're at the bottom of congressional veteran participation in Congress. Now, what is the difference there?
that's crazy, right?
I think it's exactly to the point that Marcus was talking about, that it has to do with the counterculture revolution. It was a diametric shift in how we govern ourselves and in terms of how we spread American might and power, right? The Vietnam War really caused a schism between our political focus, both with Democrats and Republicans. And it created that schism between the two in terms of, the relevance in our projection of power. And you saw that slide into, what happened with Nixon leaving office and then what going into Ford and then Jimmy Carter. And then we started bringing it back around again with Reagan. And we had this, this spread of domination, what ended the Cold War. And then we shifted back. And what we've seen over the presidential elections over the last few years. But I think to your point, what's very interesting, you're right. We are in the longest running war that we've been in our nation's history, and we have the lowest serving number of military veterans in Congress.
Run by the generation that hated war.
War.
It's kind of, what is that, bitter irony that...
Not that we're warmongers, veterans are warmongers. It's just, I'm
trying to go with that. So... As the kids, they hated their parents so much for putting them in that war, in the Vietnam War, and now they put their kids in the longest war in American history.
Right, for sure. Now, granted, the situation I think is much more difficult because the enemy we're fighting is a lot more metamorphic, if you will.
It is now.
Yeah, right. Now, let me ask you guys. Let me present a question to you two. Do you believe that because of the generation we've grown up, because of what we've seen, because of what we know, when we kind of fuse all those different groups fuse together and start moving into political office, we'll see a new style of politics evolve? Do you believe that?
I've been sitting over here trying to decide and predict the future on this, and it's a little difficult. Because we look at that example we were talking about before with, countercultural revolutions and the 60s and all that. And then the result of that ended up being the country voting and bringing in people who were in the military. So it's I guess it would be the country's view of its veterans. Okay?
I think it probably...
And then I compare that to now. And I try to say, well, is it going to be the same thing? Will they have the same mindset, or will it be different?
I don't think as many Vietnam vets wanted to run for office because of the negativity affiliate. Our generation is not been demonized.
Yeah, the veterans, you couldn't come out and say, I served our military, I was in Vietnam. They didn't do that, man.
Right.
They were ashamed of what happened to the veterans from the Vietnam era.
Totally.
And because of that, it's come all the way back around to make sure that we never do that again. And they give them every opportunity, including the mental and the physical, to come back, get healed up, and get back online. There's actually platforms for us to rotate out. And yeah, it was slow in the beginning because hell, we were new at
Still
this.
serving. We're still at war.
Yeah, we're still at war.
Yeah.
Exactly, man. The hurricane's still on. That's the biggest thing. The kids are still rolling through there as a pipeline, and there's no draft. So you got this is people wanting to do that, which means there's a love behind it.
That's what Colonel North. That what struck me last night. Colonel North talked about. He said, for the last 17 years, not a single person has been forced into the military. 100% all volunteer service, volunteer military for the longest war in our nation's history. That's powerful servitude. And
powerful servitude. I've said this before, though. In my opinion, I think that even though on some aspects that's obviously positive, you have the negative element of it isolates the awareness of what's going on with the military and its visceral connection, right? What it truly means to a family unit, to individuals that go over and fight. I think it's created a gulf in the American consciousness between people with that true what it means to be in the military with that service and the rest of the population, and I think that's dangerous. Only 9 U.S. presidents out of the 45 were not in the military, and we have just had in the past 4 presidents, 3 of those were never in the military.
Yeah, well, I think that goes back.
So what does that say about America's appreciation, need for military service as an indicator of suitability to lead the country?
Well, look at the generation you were dealing with. I hate to keep going back. I'm not hard on them. I mean, show respect to mom and dad,
our elders.
To the boomer class, but they shut down the American warrior class during that period, and we're just kind of coming towards the end of it because we're coming into our own, and our guys are actually rotating out. And the American warrior class is a real thing. Always has been all the way to the point to almost 78, right? To when it kind of we took a break in it, and they got shunned down, and now we've been brought back out. I mean, and you see the guys wearing the uniforms out in town, and that ultimately that the American warrior class is the service class as well, and when they've done it since it's
revolution,
since we became a country, and now that the guys are coming back, and it's our time to rotate out of the fighting aspect of service to this country. Then what's after that is. Take all that
public service.
Yeah, public service, right? And then you're kind of shifting into that. And
I hear you, and I think that's a great point to make. I think you got to look at prior elections and really the consciousness and the how World War II shifted the understanding and the gravity of making big life-threatening decisions as a country, and that lingered for a long, long, long time. Now I think our society and how Marcus, we're in the most peaceful time in human history or something like that, right? That we basically, there's
a statistic based on the amount of world population involving conflict.
Yes, yeah. So we are statistically in the most peaceful times in human history. So I think as a consciousness, our country says, all right, being a military commander isn't a prerequisite to govern a multipolar society and world, right? And we're the leaders of the pack in that. But what I'm saying is, man, I think the tide is shifting, as Marcus puts forth. We've had enough quality people that have been in the fight, who know the deal, who know how to work across lines with different classes, with different types of people, having a real guttural reaction to what they feel the country, where's the country at, and wanting to go in to one of the harshest places on the planet to serve. I mean, in my mind, Marcus, it's infinitely easier to serve in the military than it is to serve in politics.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm telling you, man, I firmly believe that veterans going in, they're coming from a place where they have true faith in the country. They strongly believe what the country is about. They've gone out, they've put the uniform on to support it in its most intimate ways. They've lost friends, they've lost loved ones, their families have faced those struggles, and now they're going into the lion's den, if you will, to perpetuate that desire to make America better. That's why I'm fired up, and that's why I'm fired up, Dan, coming on the show, baby. Wizard, we first need to understand, who is Dan Crenshaw?
Who is Dan Crenshaw? Daniel Crenshaw. He's 33 years old. He started, let's begin with his career here in the teams. Did 5 deployments over 10 years. Retired as a lieutenant commander, so he's officer type.
Sir! Hey, I have another!
Now, he was injured on his 3rd deployment. That was in Afghanistan, helping province. He lost his right eye, badly damaged the left. IED explosion at close range. Took some shrapnel to the face and other parts of his body. Miraculously, according to what doctors said, it was a miracle that they were able to salvage his left eye. So he did regain eyesight, at least in that. He retired in 2016. He's medically retired because of this. Now, gets out, goes to Harvard graduate school.
John F. Kennedy School of Foreign Policy, which ain't no joke, yo.
Right, there it is. And
I didn't go there.
naturally, he does that because of his interest in politics. Holds a few small positions in and around D.C. until he decides to return. He decides to return to Houston, his hometown here, and run for Congress, replacing Ted Poe here in the 2nd District.
Dude, another one of those team guys with a resume that kills. And he went to Tufts, too. His undergrad went to Tufts, which is like the wannabe Harvard. Sorry, brother. Oh, sorry, all you Tufts people, too. I didn't get anywhere near Tufts.
They wouldn't even let me on the
University
ground.
of Phoenix. It's the online Harvard.
Oh, God bless it. Well, and that's something when you start thinking about
Tufts. That sounds like a military school.
Doesn't it?
Tough.
Tough.
Yeah, but it's like tufts of grass.
Yeah, Tufts.
Tufts of
TUFT.
hair.
Right?
It's not bust on Tufts, man. That's a good
All his
school.
hair fell out, but a few tufts.
No, it's it sounds like a badass, tough military school, but since it's academia and smart, they put the T on the end of it.
Interesting.
I don't know. It sounded right.
Oh yeah,
Tufts.
make something more intellectual.
Yeah.
Add a silent letter.
What? Listen, what I love about it, man, that dude's all about service, right, Marcus?
And it's when you see somebody carry the torch like that, especially from one to the other, from the military service after getting injured, getting out, and then continuing on. I think a lot of times you get some guys midway through their careers when they get injured, like the warfighters, they're not done. Right? It's
Nowhere near done.
yeah, it's tough. I think that might be the toughest part coming out. It's not.
And where do you go, right?
Yeah, it's kind of what do you do, what to do. But if you're in one of those kind of mindsets to where it's that ultimate service, you volunteer, but then you volunteer again. You keep going in. The triple volunteers.
Yep.
And when you shut those guys down because of an injury, the mental capacity is still there. And
What a great outlet for politics, right?
Right.
Well, on that note, brother, way to wrap that up, Marcus. On that note, what do you think, gents? I think it's time to bring him on. And you know what I love most about him is his eye patch. And the fact that under that eye patch, he's got a trident eyeball. I promise you, we're going to get one of those eyeballs. All right. What do you say, gentlemen? Do you want to bring him on the show?
Absolutely.
All right.
Do it.
Let's do it. Dun, 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 dun. Marcus, I'm telling you, brother, not only I get fired up when one of our is coming on, right? My blood boils. It warms the cockles of my heart. I get so fired up. And he's sitting right here, and he's staring at me with a trident eyeball. That is America, bro. And he's running for office, dude.
This just leads the whole credence that you do this when no one's around. They think of that idea. We got somebody sitting in here, so it's not an act, right? It's the real thing. You're doing the real McCoy right now, partner.
Well, dude, when I'm staring at
We have a witness.
Welcome to the dungeon.
But you can't help yourself. One, brother, just you sitting there and let me make my point and then I'll introduce you properly. But just the fact that he's here with us, he's on this insane journey to go make the world a better place, right? To make America better. He ain't got no eye, gave that up for the cause carrying a gun. He went on, he's been to Harvard, he's been to Tufts. He's out there now canvassing, knocking on doors, and I want to get into that eventually. Man, this guy's full tilt. What do you think, brother? Should we introduce him?
Yeah, let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome the incredible teammate, Dan Crenshaw. Brother, thank you for being here, man.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. That's the best introduction I've ever gotten.
Man, you should probably open up a company of
events. Yeah.
bio intros.
Right. Send them to me and I'll
Intros
do
by
it.
Dave.
You walk in with the resume, but there's also the recordings. Like before you read that, sir, just listen to this.
Just
guy.
press play on this,
Talk
dude.
about me.
Yeah.
Dude,
I like that.
I just get fired up for people that are motivated, right? I get fired up for people that have badass never quit stories. And I also get fired up for team guys who are really continuing that servitude on a whole nother level, man. Because there's so many, we see all of our brothers all out there, man. They do 20, they do whatever. They cross over, they go through the transition and they get lost. And they don't know how to take it and build on it and keep improving the world around them. But dude, you are out on the pavement knocking on doors and selling an idea that's there. It's real and that you're going to help bring to this country, man. That's epic, dude. Dan, that's serious, bro.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed. Means a lot. That means a lot to me.
Well, we're stoked. All right.
You know, we never talk about it in the teams, but everyone knows. I mean, when you're in, we all kind of crew up with the platoons and stuff like that. And anytime an officer comes into a platoon we do the background check on him, like where do you go to school? Yeah, Annapolis guy. But then there's a select fruit. I mean, we have a lot of Ivy League guys. You didn't expect that when I first got in. I had a couple Harvard guys in my class. Do you guys have like a club, Harvard SEALs? You do, don't you?
We don't. Not
like
gonna tell you about it.
We do. Who else? Nick is there right now, man.
In smoky rooms and
Yeah, you have the handshake, the skull and bones crap.
Right.
This is all part of it.
Although there's the undergrad Harvard and there's the master's degree Harvard. The undergrad Harvard, that's very exclusive. I don't think I'm allowed in that club. I think they look down. They look down on us. Oh, you just have a master's degree from Harvard.
You're still worthless.
That's not as good. It's just not. They know I couldn't get in undergrad. They know.
Oh, you went to Tufts.
Yeah. Oh, the Harvard Safety School.
Oh,
is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They call. We don't have to talk about that.
No, we'll blow by that. All right. Before we even get going, man, we've got to do something that you're familiar with. I'm sure from your time in the T's, your times down range, and we'll talk about all that. But we gotta put you through the Mad Minute, Dan.
Yes.
Are you ready for the Mad Minute?
Ready.
All right.
Let's
Now this
do it.
is gonna be a full blown because one, you're a smart dude. Two, most importantly, because you're an officer and we're a bunch of enlisted guys, so we've got to bring this at you full tilt. So that's really just one and two, right? All right, Marcus, unload on him, please.
All right, favorite superhero.
That's a mix of Wolverine and Captain America.
Ooh, how do you combine those?
I mean, there's like
right? the nobility of Captain America.
Exactly. Nobility of Captain America. That's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah.
But man, Wolverine's just that gritty, hardcore dude. He's just like slashing everybody.
I'm a diehard
I mean,
Spidey fan, but I got that Wolverine, because he's just a
Wolverine. And I feel like I heal pretty fast too.
Nice.
So I'm like I'm basically Wolverine, but I also have an eyeball with a Captain America symbol in it.
Oh, you do not, dude.
Yeah,
that
I
is
do.
so awesome.
So it's hard to choose between the two.
All right, I like that. Not many people go that route and will share too, but because of it, you will allow that to happen. All right, Wizard, fire away.
Okay, give us one person you admire above all others for physical ability, and then one you admire for mental ability.
Oh, that's a deeper one. Okay.
Dude, stand
How
by
much time
for
do I have to
his.
think about these?
None.
Okay.
Go with whatever
Jeez,
came to mind first.
Mine was Tanya Harding.
Clearly, it's Thor.
What'd you say, Tom Hardy?
Thor? I mean, he's got pretty incredible physical ability, but he's copied me recently. Did you see his latest movie?
Oh, 12 Strong. Isn't it? It's not out yet, right?
No, Thor. No, Thor.
Ragnarok,
The actual
right?
Thor.
Yeah,
I thought
where
you
he,
meant the dude who
cuts
plays
his,
him.
No, he cuts his hair and he loses an eyeball.
Yeah.
Dude, he's totally copying
Yeah, he's
you.
copying me.
Totally.
But he's got pretty incredible. I'm sorry to go back to superheroes, but man, I'm just kind of thinking. You said off the top of my head.
Dan,
like
you
that
literally
all the
could
time,
linger on superheroes all interview and we'd be stoked,
Yeah.
all right?
Okay, so mental ability. Okay, I'm going to go with the guy who shares a birthday with me, Albert Einstein. We have the same birthday,
Dude,
March 14th.
You guys are like this.
And he's,
simpatico.
I mean, I word on the street is he's pretty smart, theory of relativity, and I minored in physics in school, so I like him. I'm a big fan.
How can you not be a fan of Albert Einstein, right?
He fit the mold of what a brilliant scientist should look like.
Amazing.
Right, exactly.
I love his hair. I love his style. He had great style. All right, it's my turn, right? All right.
Yeah.
Are you superstitious? And if you are, did you have like some lucky charm that you carried with you on every op and every deployment? Is there something maybe from growing up playing football or whatever you did? Is there something, or do you even have it now, that's still around with you? Yeah, I've got my eye in a jar.
No, on deployment, I had a little a trinket from my mom. I lost my mom when I was young, 10 years old, and there was a little like heart kind of what are those called?
The charm bracelet.
Yeah, like a little bracelet thing. And honestly, I think I lost it after I got hurt. A lot of I didn't pack up my own stuff, and unfortunately, that didn't make it back. But I did carry that with me.
That's cool, man. That's really cool.
In general, am I superstitious? I don't know. I'm terrified of ghosts. If that's, I don't know if that means I'm superstitious.
No.
But, I like what's your greatest fears? It's definitely sharks and ghosts.
That's mine, dude.
Right
You
there,
can't fight against these things.
How about a ghost shark?
Don't even talk about ghost sharks.
What about sharks and tornadoes?
Sharks. Don't even.
What if that happens?
That's impossible, Marcus. Obviously not. They made a documentary.
You can't fight against
a couple of them.
No.
Like 4 documentaries.
Yeah.
Don't they have like 4 of those? Anyway.
Yeah. All right, Marcus, fire away.
All right. What was your last, best, worst idea
Well,
in recent past, and how did it play out?
Running for Congress. Dude.
Yeah,
Are you
maybe
kidding
running
me?
for Congress.
He's living it right now, dude.
right. I tried to take my car keys and go driving on the highways in the last couple of days in Houston, which wasn't allowed apparently. I thought it'd be fine, but Tara took my keys. My wife took my keys.
That happens.
It wouldn't let me do it.
Damn it, woman, where are them keys?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I had an intervention. Basically, I'm like, I am trained to do this. I don't need. I got 4-wheel drive. I'm not driving a Prius. All right.
I know. Melly takes my keys
icy
from me too.
roads.
So let me drive.
What's before that? I'll try and give you guys another one. I get injured about every couple of years. I'm actually due for a hardcore injury at this point. It's quite scary to live under that threat of just knowing. So my last one was skiing. You're not supposed to hit we're hitting like a double black, watch my brother go down it, but he lent me some crappy skis that day. And man, you go up for like a 6-foot drop in and they pop off and I tumble down, pectoral tendon rips apart.
Oh,
that was a bad idea. I don't know if it was a bad, best, worst, because there was really no benefit to that at all.
I think that classifies, especially, is your brother younger than you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Where the young dude's like, hey, bro, let's go hit this,
I'm
man.
I got this.
Morgan learned how to ski. I never did. He's a snowboarder and all that, but the kids got old enough, and my second to last operation was because I flipped into them trees on them skis.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude, that's
doing.
Totally. All right, Wizard, fire away.
All right, ready? We're going to do random word association.
Oh, no.
First thing that comes to mind, and we need a response within 1 second, so there's no thinking about these. Are you prepared and willing to participate?
Can we all play this one,
No.
dude? All right.
Are you ready?
I don't have a choice. I don't even know why you asked me.
Here it comes. Pancake syrup.
Pancake syrup, sugar,
Picasso.
elf.
Combat training tank.
Gosh. Honesty.
Awesome.
Overhand right.
Kettlebell.
Burton Leon Reynolds.
Who?
What?
Burton Leon Reynolds.
She's mustache.
Excellent. Bowling ball, mashed potatoes.
Gutter ball.
Artificial intelligence.
Computers.
Bro,
God.
dude, I think you get off on melting our
trying to
guest
short
brains
circuit
down, dude.
Short circuit.
Like we're supposed to be building them up, like stretching out, and you're giving them some Blade Runner, coming back baseline thing, right? That we saw last night. and just melting his prefrontal cortex down.
Yeah, but this is all based on the assumption that this is not the absolute best part of the show, and everybody turns it off after this.
Good point. I belay my last.
People doing that?
Does that happen?
But wait,
We
what?
just
gotta
think
find out.
they listen to the rest of the
But
show.
belay my last. All right. If you could go back in history, right, and spend 30 days on a desolate island or stranded somewhere, who would it be with?
Ooh, just anybody.
Let's extend
in
it. Let's make
history.
it 6 months so the annoying part comes in, you know?
Yeah, so you gotta really like them.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
not allowed to choose like my wife. Right?
No.
Okay.
No way. No.
Too easy.
Way too easy.
Well, like a historical figure.
Yeah. Something decent.
Jeez, somebody could learn something from.
Maybe.
Okay. I like to give the right answer.
Molly Ringwald.
It's not a bad one. I can't give you inappropriate answers either. I'm running for Congress. This is like, that's the problem.
Tape.
Molly Ringwald.
All tape, bro.
Right.
That was
I gotta watch everything I say these days.
Oh, my
Not
God.
very good.
Molly
That-
Ringwald is a weird one.
The discipline.
I know. I have discipline. There's so many like things that come to mind, and you're just no, Dan, no. Like, no.
All this shit's hitting his filter. He's like, no,
Stop
no.
Yeah, and there's like two separate personalities
This
raging
is
against
you're-
each other.
I'm telling you, what you're getting into is 1,000 times harder than going to Bud's, bud. 1,000 times, bro.
Buds is fun,
Right?
Buds is fun.
Right?
All right, I'll give you a historical figure. This is gonna sound contrived, but I don't care. I wouldn't mind spending it with Ronald Reagan.
Yeah,
He's
6 months with the Gipper would be cool.
He passes the airport test. Like
Oh,
I'd spend some
totally.
time with him. Or,
Totally.
you know,
Have you seen American Made?
Oh, my God.
We'll watch tonight when.
So funny.
Why Ronald
Wow.
Reagan?
Yeah. Wait, you can't ask
Ronald
why.
Reagan? Yes, you can.
All right.
I want to hear why.
All right, go.
why
I think
Reagan?
people wanna hear why.
One, because he revolutionized conservative politics. I want to know how he did that. I want to know what his thought process were. I want to know his secrets of communicating with people and inspiring people.
You know what
He
I
was
want to know
known
from
for
Ron
that.
Reagan is why he did a movie with a chimpanzee. Was his career in such shambles that he had to do a movie with a chimpanzee?
Good with politics.
Right? And thank God he did,
Time to
right?
move on.
Thank
Yeah.
God. All right, Marcus, last question.
All right, brother. If you woke up in the morning as John McClane, which day would you want to die hard?
You got
Which
5
movie?
movies
Which
to
one of
choose
the
from.
movies? Oh, definitely the third one.
He said third? The third one?
Yeah.
In New York?
Is that the
Yeah.
Is that the one in New York
That's
with
the-
Sam?
that's
just-
the
this is
fellow
one
The
of
other
those.
day, I thought I would want to be Nakatomi Plaza, but the third one with.
Oh, you can't change your answer,
can't?
can you?
Just an awesome
Yeah, you can.
movie.
Yeah, you can.
Number
'Cause you
three,
had it
number
on-
3 is my favorite.
It's
yeah.
so good. So good.
They're right there. Yeah, but
the one with the fire sale was good, man. The way they,
Computer stuff?
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
shut
no,
everything
that was
down.
later.
He
That
knocked
was
the
one of the
helicopter out
newer
of-
ones, right?
Yeah,
that was
he
one
knocked
of
a
the newer
helicopter out of the
ones.
sky with a
I'm
police car.
sticking with
That was pretty good. That's like
Yippee-ki-yay.
some Jack Bauer stuff right there. Like Jack Bauer's always,
Has to
like,
be,
I,
yeah.
like
Thank
he,
you.
He like gives up his assault rifle for a pistol
Right,
every
exactly.
time, and I'm like, and he's like knocking
And
airplanes
no,
out of the
no one
sky.
else
It's
can fill Jack
Kiefer,
Bauer's
bro.
shoes.
It's
no one else can
Kiefer.
be good enough. In
Nobody
the
can do this.
Always got to call him back.
And he's got to
off
torture
retirement.
everybody.
Right?
Like he tortures his dad once, I think. Didn't he? Like,
He did. He totally
it's
did.
ridiculous.
Oh, it's Kiefer. He's twisted.
Jack Bauer.
All right.
I knew we were talking about John
So,
McClane, but-
so that was the mad 10 minutes. Thank you very much, Dan, for your participation, for your answers. We are
Did they ever do a Jack
incredibly
Bauer movie? Did they ever do a 24 movie where Jack?
no,
They didn't, did they?
no, because nobody wants to see Kiefer Sutherland in any movies anymore.
I do.
Really?
What's wrong?
You
with
want to
Kiefer?
see Young Guns 10?
Maybe. One. The first were good.
I don't understand the question.
I don't understand the question. What?
What? Wait,
I
what?
respectfully
What?
abstain. What?
Right? I understand there'd be no math involved. All right.
I was
Listen.
told. I was told there would be no math involved in the tire situation.
Have that removed. All right. Dan, God bless you for having your patience with us and our ridiculousness. But the reason why you're here, obviously,
Is
is
because
not.
he's taped to the chair.
His wife made him.
I was supposed to say that.
Listen, don't. It's not your first time in flex cuffs. We know that. Right?
Tom
You might take that the wrong way.
Answer the damn question.
You were a third O before.
Guy can take interrogation. For God's sake, he lost an eye during the whole day.
Yeah.
He lost,
All right.
came, did the podcast, lost an eye.
How did you lose your eye? Well, the Never Quit guys wanted a story.
Right?
So,
Here's what we really want, though, as I digressed even more down this rabbit hole of absurdity. But if you ever feel like giving us an eye, we will put it right here in the middle of our podcast, bro. So you can always be a part of us. That would be epic. But
I'll go find a
I know
lion.
they're not cheap.
I'll go find a lion skull. Or don't say that.
What? A lion skull?
A big mount skull. Put that eye in there.
Oh, that'd be
Sick.
so
I gotta,
cool.
Yeah.
You can't say lions, though.
No, I know.
You'll get
exactly.
hammered for poaching. Right?
Cecil, I'm sorry, brother. I've never shot a lion either. I don't come.
He doesn't hunt those. No. All right. The reason why people come here, Dan, is they are out there in the combat of their life. They are out there desperately trying to fight through whatever situation they have, whether they're getting beaten down at work, they're getting beaten down, in their personal lives. And so they come to our podcast because they know they're going to get some really amazing content, some positivity from people that they can look up to, that people that they respect, such as yourself, to hear their story. So if you could, without further ado, could you please share with our listeners your greatest Never Quit story or stories?
absolutely. Okay. I'll start it maybe earlier in life because I think it builds upon that and it kind of makes me who I am. So my first Never Quit story is really age 10. My mother was battling cancer for 5 years, and we were growing up here in Katy. And she never quit. She never complained. She always put us first, her 2 kids, me and my brother. And she didn't make it. And she eventually lost that battle when I was 10. And what do you do as a 10-year-old? My brother's 5. He barely really understands what's going on. And my dad's struggling to make ends meet, and trying to take care of us at the same time. So I think that's my real first true test, and also my first introduction to what a hero looks like and what it means to never quit and to watch somebody go through that. And that was my mother. So I think I had a good example early on. And her message to me right off the bat was, before she died, her message to me was, it was sort of great heights. And I don't know that she knew what that meant or that I really knew what that meant at the time, but it still sticks with you. It doesn't really matter what you choose to do in life. It's not really about what you do. It's how you do it. And I think that's what sort of great heights meant. And a couple of years later, I was introduced to what a SEAL was, through books and things maybe I read, and it was hooked right away. And I think maybe it was the adventure. I don't know. You're a kid, right? So there's not a whole lot of us that get into this business without wanting to do it for a long time. Mm-hmm. It's rare that a guy goes through buds because I'm just trying something new, right?
Hey, it looked cool, man.
Yeah, it's
Over here, man.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right.
yeah, I don't know.
I had nothing else going on.
Yeah. So that started probably around age 12 or 13, and that really drove my decisions from then on out. And what college I was looking at, and whether I was going to do ROTC or look at the academy or whatever. And I kept going through that, and I was at least taught early on to kind of have those building blocks in life that set you up for success. You got to get the right grades and everything. Okay, so all pushing towards being a SEAL. Eventually did that. Had my next, I think, setback. Right, and most of us do going through buds. It's definitely the rule that you're probably going to get hurt and rolled back somehow, some way.
That's statistically.
So yeah,
or 3 times.
Yeah.
I mean, you might happen 3 times.
Yeah, well, we call that weak genes.
No,
Genetic
I'll take
line there,
that.
dude. What you talking about?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another?
How long was Stokes there?
5
years?
No, on and off for 5 years, but he left and came back. Weirs has the unbroken, continuous stretch of 28 months.
That's not designed for you to be there that long.
That's why he turned crazy. That's why old Jerry turned nuts.
That's some place to be for 28 months.
But Stokes it was 5 hell weeks then? Because he
No,
left.
the only one with 5 hell weeks is
I thought it was instructor Shay.
Jay has 5 hell weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
that's one too many help. I mean, four is reasonable. But
Yeah,
five?
4 makes sense. Four makes you normal. 5, you're just outright batshit crazy at that point.
So I guess weakling. I only did 2. So there was, I had my stress fractures in my left tibia.
During Hell Week?
In the middle of it.
On Wednesday?
Tuesday afternoon.
Oh, man.
Because Wednesday's that hump day where you could actually get rolled forward, but we don't want any of that
No.
going on. So
No, sir.
I rolled backwards all the way to the beginning. I had to be rolled about 3 different I had to be rolled for 3 classes to get back
roll?
into.
So you got a fracture.
Yeah, it was a fracture. With stress fractures, you have to do an MRI scan. Mine,
During a bone scan.
could see plenty well on just the X-ray.
Yeah, I had them in my second roll.
So nice, good fracture right in the tibia. I could feel it pop too right under the boat when we were running to Chow on Tuesday, and you kind of keep going because you're like, oh, that hurt, but you keep going for a little bit, and then you sit down for Chow, and then you get back up, and you fall right there.
That's
something's
throbbing.
wrong. Then you get that question: are you hurt or injured?
Right. You need to go to medical.
Yeah, you want to go back? Are you hurt or injured? Because there's a difference.
Well, I mean, I got shin splints bad too when we first started running in the boots. So I thought that's what that was.
Yeah,
and most of us probably do, right? Until you have to go in and get that damn bone scan. But
better hope it comes out the way you want it to. Because if it doesn't,
then you're screwed.
Then you quit.
They got you right there, man.
Yeah.
Because then you have to go back to get restarted. Yeah.
There's actually nothing wrong with you. There was definitely something wrong with me. So. I had to do it all over again. Went fine the second time. And I like to tell this story.
What class, Dan? I don't mean to interrupt.
Sorry. So I started with 261, and I graduated 264.
Right.
In 261 Hell Week, you do that 2-mile timed run in Hell Week.
Yeah.
Remember that thing? And everybody's like, and the first time you do it, you're like, well, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So there's, you don't have a whole lot of incentive to do well on it. And me, I was barely moving by then, right? Because leg was hurting so bad, so I was dead last, and then you have to do it all over again because if you're not in the top 5 or however the instructors
you're doing it again.
Think about it, you do it again. So I was dead last. I mean, by a huge margin, dead last because I could barely move. Second Hell Week, first by an enormous margin.
Wow!
I think I was running 7-minute miles on that one.
Wow!
So you fail once, that's fine, but it's.
Because it sucks the same no matter. I mean, one time or the second time, it sucks, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, I mean,
for sure.
You can't practice that to get good at it. It just sucks.
But what I love to hear, and if you don't mind to just interrupt the process of your never quit stories and the continuation
people love
of
hearing
it.
Bud stories, man.
Is can you describe the mentality that you had starting day 1, phase 1 again, and what you went into it? Because you have a 2-month waiting period,
right?
Plus the time catching
just
up.
to get to back where you were.
Yes,
man, you got one before that, officer. So rollbacks. You got one shot.
They
man.
take the hammer, man. So
roll me.
what
That's
was
the worst.
God,
I will never forget instructor. I won't say his name. He might be selective duty, but. God, he had this is rollback land, because you're still in buds. You're just hanging out. You're not classed up.
Tell us his name and we'll beep it out because I want to know if I know. I don't know. Yeah.
He's an evil little tiny Filipino.
Yeah,
he is an evil.
I do know
Yeah, 229.
Yeah.
Evil. Anyway, he was in charge of the rollbacks, and he didn't like the way we did the watch bell for some reason over the holidays. There was something he didn't like. It really wasn't that bad. And he said, okay. He said, gentlemen, you and your senior enlisted will be wet for this entire week. You'll follow first phase around with me, and you don't have to do anything except just never be dry in January.
Epic.
He's just never be dry. So we'd be like, that was maybe we eventually called it Week.
Nice
in honor of his name. Yeah. Because it was just ridiculous. And so we found there's certain water sources in the Buds compound that you can find that have warm water coming out. We'd fill our canteens with those, and we'd douse ourselves with warm water. So he's like he'd always look at us. He's like, "Are you dripping? I don't see anything dripping off of you."
Because it's cold steaming anyways, right?
Right.
That was maybe one of the worst. And to where the guys in first phase would look at us and be like, man,
that
you guys are just getting hammered. So and then we finally get to start buds like months later. And by the way, I'm on. Let's go through one more quick anecdote. Another instructor who just really liked me, I guess, and he wanted me to follow around first phase for a few days too while they were in their hydro hell week, and he'd have me out on.
So much fun.
I was still on crutches. So I'd follow again, not even in buds. I'm going nowhere with my life at this point. Like
you're getting beat for it.
You're just there.
You're just there.
You're in limbo.
You're just there. Yeah.
Purgatory.
Like you're in purgatory, and they would have me crutch in and out of the surf zone.
I love it. I love it.
These guys at Hydro Hell Week are looking at us, just laughing their asses off. I mean, they just loved it. And he would have me do. He's like, I want you to get up on one leg on one of the pylons there and just do Mr. Miyagi.
Did he make
crutches.
You fly with your? Oh,
absurd. Okay, and then we finally get to start buds, and how do I feel? I'm pretty fired up. I mean, God. By the time you're get to start again, it's so exciting. And you're fired up. You're just ready to crush it. You're thinking of stupid things you can do to look more motivated to the instructors. We should be like Spartans, and everyone's like, no, like pirates, and whatever, just whatever dumb buds idea you can think of, just to seem like the most motivated class ever.
Totally.
But then they still don't think you're motivated, and everybody's like, what are we doing wrong? It's just the mind games.
I love it.
Dude, when you spend that time on that crutch crew, man, because you're seeing it slip away, but you're getting that energy back to go. That was the only run.
Fuel.
Yeah, that was the only run I think I passed by a couple seconds.
Yeah,
my class up run.
Yeah. You're fired up, and that's what I mean. You're so fired up that my first round of Hell Week, dead last. Second time, first by a mile. Because you're just fired up, and you there's no reason to get first place. There's not really any good incentive, frankly. But
sure there is.
Except that's what team guys do, and that's what team guys do. Why, and you're motivating your boys to be like, listen, we got to get first on this chow run. Well, why? We're not going anywhere. Well, because we have to. Because years later you'll remember that's what
you'll be on some crazy podcast telling the story about how you went from last to first. That's why.
Well, if you don't do it, you get kicked out for no motivation.
Yeah, totally.
And you can possibly get kicked out. That's true.
There is that.
There is some incentive.
But
you can also kind of glide through. We all know that to an extent, but nobody wants to.
Yeah, it pays to be a winner. Not a big time winner. Yeah. You hanging out there long enough means you put a whooping on your boys and
totally
going as fast as the slowest man. So
I love it. All right, so you move through, you get through first phase, second phase, you graduate buds, you go into SQT. Talk about that process and finally getting to a platoon after that extensive pipeline, and what that feeling was like as coming from where you're coming from and what you had to go to get there. Because obviously, when we were going through, it was pre 9/11, so it's definitely a different mentality. Share with our listeners what that was like to finally get to a platoon where the potential to go to war was there.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, right? And I was joining Team 3, and they were already in Iraq, so we went straight overseas. It's exciting. I don't know how else to describe it. You get your bird. It's like, wow. I mean, that feeling, and somebody slams it into your chest, and and it's
nothing like it.
It's great. There really is nothing like it in the world. And then you get to go right overseas.
Wow.
Just kind of doing junior officer stuff, running convoys, helping out with platoon things. I ended up in Basra for a while, and it was a cool deployment. Learned a lot. Went back, started the official workup, of course, with Charlie Platoon, SEAL Team 3, and 2010 we were deployed to Ramadi. And another great deployment for me. I actually got to take over as platoon commander. I was technically assistant. I wasn't a third O on that deployment. I was an assistant platoon commander, and our platoon commander had to leave for good reasons, not like he was in trouble or anything. He just he went to Afghanistan, and so I took over. And just incredible opportunity for me. Got planning out every op, getting the guys out, doing what you're supposed to do as an officer, which is just getting the boys the right work, the relevant work, making a difference in the country. And I'm proud of a lot of things we did there. And next stop, Afghanistan, 2012. And, that's really the deployment that obviously changed my life.
All right, so what happened? Can you walk us through that?
So yeah, about 6 months into that deployment, we'd gone through the winter, we'd gone through the spring. Now we were in the middle of summer in June, and we were lucky because we would go out for days at a time, but we had a pretty decent home life, I guess. Like everybody's got their room, we got showers. It's on Kandahar Airfield. It's a well endowed base. But one day this was not really a planned mission. It was more of a quick reaction force type mission to help some Marine Special Operations guys out in Helmand. Just across the border in Sangin province, or Sangin, not Helmand province, Sangin. Yeah. And, they'd been in a firefight all day. They'd taken a lot of fire from some nearby compounds, called in close air support on that. They were out of batteries, out of ammo, but we wanted to maintain a presence in that area. So we were happy to help out, of course, and run to the sound of gunfire, of course. So I got on that op, and we always come in around the middle of the night, maybe 2 or 3 a.m. It's still dark, and then we kind of hole up somewhere and then start moving out. The reason we do that is so that they don't have time to arm the IEDs. Because, everywhere we go, that's our number one threat. We're not too concerned about getting shot at. We're concerned about the IEDs. Even when you do get shot at, you just stay there.
Right.
Don't move. Because we'd rather just not get blown up. That is 100% the biggest threat there. And so we moved out, hit another compound, just kind of hole up in as we're sort of moving through the territory there, and still clearing this one sort of courtyard into this house, and one of my Afghan interpreters was running across to answer a question and stepped on a pressure plate, blew up in 4 or 5 different pieces, and I was hit by that. I just happened to be squared up with him, looking straight at him, and I was blinded immediately, thrown off my feet, not really sure what happened. You kind of just pause and assess at that moment. I immediately just felt my legs, unsure what happened. Okay, still have legs. I really don't know what that was. Kind of felt like got hit by a truck while simultaneously people in the truck are blasting you with shotguns.
Wow.
That's
Catching on fire.
sort of, yeah. Also throwing Tabasco sauce in your eyes.
Oh.
If I were to describe what getting blown up felt like, that's sort of what it felt like. And just like a real punch to the gut. It was just, and obviously the blast is closer to my gut than it is my face. So that's really why it felt that way. Tore me up pretty badly. I was blind. I don't think I realized I was blind. I never assumed I was actually blind for some reason. I don't know why. I just thought there was dirt in my eyes and that was fine. And you do what you're supposed to do in that situation. You don't freak out. Your guys eventually get to you, and you crack a joke with them. I told my buddy Chris, I'm like, Chris, and he's like, what? I'm like, just don't ever get blown up, dude. They're like, really sucks.
Mental note, don't get blown up.
He's like, I got it. I wasn't planning on it. Thank you, though.
I wasn't planning on it either, damn it. Pay attention.
But it happened.
Like, remember I told you I was accident prone?
Yeah.
Like, this was not my first, rodeo and being accident prone. And like before this deployment, all the guys were like, man, I think we're going to be fine. Cause like, if we're getting shot at, it'll probably go around me and hit Dan. And then that joke wasn't so funny. In the end, and they're like, hey guys, Dan's really hurt.
Well, they waited probably like 30 days before they started it up again, right?
Yeah.
Not that long. Not that long.
Not that long.
As soon as you find out you're alive, it's coming, man.
Yeah.
So we had Brad Snyder on, who's a EOD guy.
Great guy.
Yeah, amazing human being. And he talked about losing his sight. And, he has, that same acknowledgement of, oh, do I have my legs? Am I still here? And, he even talks about the sense of relief. Like he actually thought he was dead, but then he was alive. And that sense of relief, like, oh my God, I'm still here.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay type thing. Did you go through something like that at all?
I don't know. Like, I don't think I ever thought that I wasn't. That's hard. I don't think I ever had that kind of existential, question. But you definitely wonder, right? And you do. You just feel everything, right? Like, it's like that's your first thing. Everything hurts real bad. my gut really, really hurt. My eyes didn't. So I just assumed my eyes were fine. I was very wrong. And I think, when guys saw me, they were like, oh, wow, this guy really got messed up.
Wow.
I don't have even pictures of that. I don't really know. The first picture I have of myself is, a good week of healing. And it looks pretty bad. It looks like somebody got hit with the truck and then shot in the face with the shotgun.
Yeah.
And it's just what it looks like. And it's, I can't imagine what it was like at that moment. They're also dealing with with our interpreter. He lost both legs, both arms. It was that kind of IED. It was very hard ground. There's a big difference when you get blasted with something that's just soft dirt and one that's hard packed rock. They also had bolts and things packed into it. I had bolts coming out of my hands.
Wow.
The things they removed from my eye was all metal. I've had metal little rocky things just come out of my face over the years. So a lot of that, it changes the damage quite a bit. So about 45 minutes later, medevac helo comes in, gets me out of there. I was able to walk and get to it on my own. Somebody had to I had to be guided there, of course, but don't take your buddies out of the fight and make them carry you, if you can help it, right? And that's what we remember. You really do fall back on your training. You really do. That stuff really, really matters because you've already figured out that you can probably get through just about anything. And and then so that when you are tested, that you can get through it. And it's not even I wonder if people are always asking what can I do? Well, just honestly, just mental games. What can I do? Just think about it. Think about what you would do. And if you've already thought about it and something truly challenging happens, you probably get through it because you've at least thought about it and you've at least thought and your brain automatically goes back to that kind of reptilian sense of just instinct and what am I supposed to do? I'm not supposed to freak out, right? I learned that in pool comp. Don't freak out. And don't quit and drown yourself before you quit.
All pertinent laws to follow, right?
And you remember those things and you remember to keep a sense of humor because we're really SEAL teams. We're pretty good at dark humor.
The best.
Again, you laugh at somebody before you help them, and then you help them. But you
got to get a quick shot in, right?
That repetitive motion that we go through over and over again. That's ultimately what we are as a master of the basics, right? And then something about when you're on target, you get popped at night, man. You're still on target, so you're still switched on. You don't have time to realize you're hurt until there's white sheets. Someone's telling you that you're hurt, kind of deal. It doesn't come off, and that basic training, everything goes through. Yeah. Another good thing, it's dark. You're helmeted up. The guys aren't. They can't really see too much because once we get around you, and then it's that self push, right? Don't take anybody offline. Don't take morphine. Yeah. Well, I'll take a little bit of morphine.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit of fentanyl, right?
Like a lollipop.
I love it, dude. All right, so fast forward, you make it off the X, you get back. Did they start surgeries there, or did you have to get to Germany before they started doing any of that stuff at all?
Really, no. I was in a coma.
Check Roger.
Yeah. As soon as I got on the medevac bird, again, they could see the damage that was done, so they put me in. They knocked me out right away, and I didn't wake up for 5 or 6 days. And when I did wake up, I had been through surgery. I'd been unstable. My body just tends not to react well to being put under. It's been a history with me, and they didn't have my history right there with them. That was as it turns out, it was kind of an emergency. So, but I was. It turns out I was in a medically induced coma for a while, and then I vividly remember waking up with the tubes getting pulled out of my mouth, and I figured, okay, I must be in a hospital somewhere. Still blind. They eventually got around to telling me, okay, your right eye's been removed. We'll see about a left eye. Where it's not looking good, but there's a chance. And I'm like, check, there's a chance. That's fine. Again, really, really some sort of self-deception onto how grave my future was with respect to vision and being able to ever see again. And I spent a couple of days in Landstuhl. Some good friends of mine had flown up with me so that I had people there. I was unable to move, honestly, really barely move even my limbs. It was so swollen and just so torn up. No real permanent damage on these things, but just your body just in complete shock still, and unable to even kind of turn over and let alone get out of bed. That was not happening, at least for a few more days, and also hallucinating. I was hallucinating wildly. Like, it's kind of, people talk about phantom pain with their limbs.
Yeah.
Well, there's I forget the medical term for it, but there is something that when you lose an eye traumatically or lose vision traumatically. Yeah, it has to be both eyes. Sorry, yeah, lose vision completely in a traumatic way. Those nerve endings, that optic nerve keeps firing, and for me, it was firing and giving me visuals of what I'd last seen, which was 100% Afghanistan. So I was
Your
just
imprint, ocular acuity, man. All that stuff still generates. That's the brain path.
Yeah. We should have. Your brother's not here to tell us this.
Yeah, exactly. What Morgan?
Scientist.
Yeah, right. Text him up. Let's find out what that means.
That's why you have to cover both, even if you have a single injury, because one will activate the other.
Really?
Yeah, and it switches. There's an optic chiasm behind the eyes. It rotates over. Those nerve paths go in, and everything's electrical impulses. I know that much. So.
Did
you just black out and just become a scientist?
And that's how you debate.
What did you just have?
And that's how he does this, so Dan. No, he does this. Every now and then I forget he was
amazing.
He was a badass corpsman, right?
Yeah, he's really sharp with this stuff.
All right. So you hit this point and all of a sudden, when did the gravity of the situation finally start to settle in? And when was the point where you're like, this is not going to define me?
The gravity failed to set in for a while. So let's see. Hallucinations wildly. That really tore me apart. Like, you're in a deep dark place there. I look over to my friends and I see an Afghan guy sitting next to me. I look around, I see village. Like, that's just what I saw all the time. It never went away. And I knew it wasn't real. So like my mental capacity was definitely there. But I was constantly seeing things, and or might fall the little I could sleep, might fall asleep for a few minutes and then wake up from a dream and then see the dream and can't get out of it. You could not escape the dream. It was truly living in a nightmare for days and days and days. Flew back to the Bethesda, with this kind of big surgery coming up, right? Like, it's because I got to remove the cataract because there's a chance, right? So I'm like. Being a team guy, I'm like, you better get this done, and because I got places to be.
Yeah, I gotta get back with my platoon.
I don't have time for this. I don't know why the flights aren't leaving. Like, there's a thing in my eye. You're supposed to get it out. What are we waiting on? They want to get me. They want to do it back in Bethesda, so that's what we did. We get there, and a few days we finally scheduled the surgery to remove the cataract. Before that even or actually maybe right after that happened, and they thought maybe the surgery went well. Not sure. I mean, they're like they know that my retina didn't detach or anything, so that's really the fear. Surgery went well. Still hallucinating wildly because I still can't see anything. Like, we're not willing to take the bandages off just yet. And finally, a nurse who's got her head screwed on well was just like, "How long has this been going on?" And my wife's like, well, she wasn't my wife then, but Tara, my wife now. She said for the whole time this has been going on. And then her said he's going to have severe PTSD, like unrecoverable PTSD, if we don't stop this. And so to stop it, they gave me a bunch of Ativan anti-anxiety drug, and that made it go black. And it was just like heaven on earth for me.
The relief of that.
Well, actually, first what happened is I saw Christmas. I was in like this Candyland Christmas land for about 3 hours. I'll never forget it.
Whoa, dude!
And then it all went black, and like that was huge. It was a huge relief.
That's cool. Well, not cool. Wait a minute. Let me back that statement up. That's not cool, but wow, that's cool.
It was weird. It was pretty cool. It was cool that it worked,
and that it ended.
Yeah. So it ended. Recovered slowly from that. You take some bandages off. Okay, I can see. And like the first thing I saw was the American flag.
Oh, America!
Because they had this big flag like you guys do in here, like right at the foot of my bed that everybody would come in and sign. And they're like, "Do you know what that is?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think it's the American flag." And everybody's like super happy, because we're taking steps forward because there was very because they remove the cataract, but they can't replace it with a lens, which is, what you normally would do. A cataract surgery is really not a big deal.
Right.
It's a big deal on me because, picture it this way. When you get a cataract surgery, you're essentially removing the window pane because it's all messed up. You're removing the window pane from a window and you're replacing it with a new one. With me, you can't do that because the frame is all broken. You'd have to replace, you'd have to put the window pane and sew it to some curtains or something. And that's how they would have had to do it. And they were very reluctant to do so. That didn't stop me from demanding it almost on a daily basis.
Ow!
Yeah, now I got places to be.
Right? I am a UDT Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
I want it done.
Yeah, it says it on the door. Read. And so, you keep asking me when the gravity of the situation set in, and God, it never did, because it was just self-deception. It was self-deception.
I love that.
The whole time. I'm like, so you're saying there's a chance? I guess, okay, for me that's 100% chance. And that self-deception is helpful to me because it stopped me from going too crazy. I think.
Right.
And
it's a wonderful concept. Had you used that before in your life? Did you use it during your mom's sickness? Is this something that you had perfected, or was it because of the situation that it intensified it and you utilized it as your greatest asset in that moment?
Self-deception means that failure is not an option. So I think that's what I mean by that. So if you know you're going to be okay, if you know you're going to make it, you will make it. But you have to know that, and you have to really dig deep, and you have to believe it. And that's how you get through buds. Because we say sometimes, you were a SEAL before you got to buds, but you had to get here, prove it, and then we had to train you. But you already knew you were going to make it, and you can't get through buds if it's an option. If failure is ever an option, you can't make it through because it's the quitting is too tempting.
Totally.
The donuts and the coffee, they say it every freaking night. So warm.
We will find you a job in the Navy.
Going around the world, and you're off the coast of Coronado in your little boat, and it's freezing, and you're hallucinating, and you're and you look up at those condos, the nice, you can see people in their living rooms just having the greatest time, and again, it's so tempting. But if you know that it was never an option to quit, then you won't, because you're in your mind, you're just like, well, God, I just got to get through this one thing again so that I can keep focusing on the goal. So it requires mental preparedness, and there's nothing you can do except starting now. Start now, saying, I will never quit. I always know I can make it through anything. Nothing is too tough. So that when the time does come, you're used to it, and your brain is already wired that way. And some people it starts from an early age, and some people it doesn't. But it's something you have to start now.
So you make it through this. You come out the other end. Obviously, they saved some of your vision in your left eye.
Right.
Your right eye's gone. Now all of a sudden, what happens next for you? Obviously, you stayed in for a few more years before you got medically retired. But was it the same for you?
Yeah, I mean, I have to turn to the right more. So there's that's definitely have to do that.
People fuck with me more on my right side.
I spill things easier. No, but I mean, the left eye never really, it never truly recovered. I demanded a lot more surgery. I really wanted them to fix my cataract, to where the doctors eventually had to be like, listen, we're not doing it. It's too risky. And also, there was kind of another, a traumatic issue that happened after that surgery. We were all kind of clapping our hands and slapping each other on the back because the cataract surgery went well, meaning my eye didn't explode. That's what we meant by well.
Wow.
The doctors were still like, well, he can still barely see out of it. He's just not totally blind. That's essentially the medical assessment of that. The idea that I would ever see 20/20 again was completely off the table. Completely.
Wow.
It was a chance of 1 or 2%. And then they found a hole in my retina. So it was one shot to the gut after another, and that
frag that went through there.
Yes, multiple pieces of frag, but there was one little copper wire in particular that really screwed me. And so the hole in your when you get a hole in your retina, a macular hole, it expands because there's a membrane on the back of your retina that's, from a scientific perspective, nobody's really sure why it's there. But what it does is it creates tension, and if you do get a hole, that hole will expand. And so the conversation was then, well, if we do this surgery to remove that membrane, which will stop the hole from expanding, there's a really good chance it'll attach the retina because his eye is so fragile and he'll go blind right away. But if we don't do it, he's just going to go blind slowly. So let's go ahead and do the surgery. And again, very routine surgery. This is, older folks get this stuff done all the time. It's really not a big deal. For me, it's very risky.
Huge.
So, do it. And again, that self-deception really kicks in because I'm just not even worried about it. I'm just like, check, you guys will be fine. You guys know what you're doing. And I just kind of know it'll be okay. I don't know why. I can't tell you why that was. It was, but maybe that was just God working through me and kind of giving me the strength to just believe.
Amen.
And when you believe something, I believe that you actually heal. Belief is powerful. And we got through it, and I was blind again for weeks. Because to recover from that particular surgery, you have to, they put a gas bubble in your eye. You have to stare straight down for 2, 3, or actually, my wife would disagree. I thought it was 2 weeks. I think it was actually more like 6.
Oh, wow.
So you're just blind again, and I'm just listening to audiobooks all day long. Not the worst life.
Yeah, right? You learned a lot.
Yeah, not really. They were dumb books. I don't remember anything I heard.
I love it.
So, but we got through it, and and then we slowly trying to figure out how I could see again because I don't have a lens. So right now I'm wearing a very special contact. Without it, I wouldn't even know you guys are in the room.
Okay,
I really can't see. But with this thing, it's correctable to 20/20 vision, which is just incredible.
Wow, that is awesome.
It is.
I mean, that's incredible.
It is because it's just so far from what they thought they could do. Because my eye managed to heal as well. I mean, it's it's really just a contact lens, and it's a good contact lens. But they just didn't think my eye would be able to even handle it.
Wow.
And even get to that point because there's cornea damage. There's still debris in there. That it just doesn't make sense to try and remove it. And it took years, by the way, to get to that point.
Yeah.
Trying out different contacts, different glasses, but about 4 months later, we were back on the range. Back at Shaw's. In Mississippi, our team guy, just most wonderful place ever. Yeah,
ever.
And trying to learn to shoot left-handed with the rifle because I was really trying to get back into the platoon, and at the team level, we were okay with that. Getting back in the platoon, that was just there. Again, it just kind of goes back to this no other option kind of mentality. If you think there are no other options, then you don't have that, I guess, mental struggle of quitting because not an option.
I got back online. I mean, this is what we are.
Yeah.
This is what I do for a living.
Right.
Yep.
Don't give yourself the option. And I think that's the lesson when people ask me because the normal route when you have traumatic injuries in the military is to definitely go through your medical retirement. I mean, guys just resist that, in the teams. We resist it heavily, and it was just there's some things just aren't enough to stop you. I think, and that was one of them. So I wanted to get back. I was trying to train at Shaw's to get back into it. And I wasn't able to get back to the platoon. Long story short, just the administrative issues, the need for a medical waiver, and just everybody kind of heeing and hawing about, I don't know if we're allowed to do this. So I ended up staying at Special Reconnaissance Team 1 and, deploying in obviously different capacity with that team, still back with SEAL Team 3, more in an intel related role, and doing a lot of great things I'm very proud of. Deploying to the Persian Gulf and working in Lebanon, and then my last deployment 2016, working in Korea.
Wow. And then you finally make the decision to separate. And
I didn't really make that decision.
I'm being gentle with you. Finally, they kicked your ass out of the SEAL teams. They got rid of you to move, make room for junior officers coming in for sure. But
it was the reason I had to get out. I'll clarify that.
Yeah, tell us, because that's a big deal with transitioning.
Yeah,
and it's a massive thing.
It was too hard to keep trying to kick that can down the road. It was too hard to keep battling the system. It really got to a point to where I wouldn't be allowed to go overseas anymore. And if I stayed in, it would really be a glass ceiling on my career. If you can't for medical reasons, if you can't technically be deployed, even though we all know that I'm easily deployable, by the technicality of it, on your dive physical, you can't dive, and therefore you're not allowed to jump, even though you still jump out of airplanes. for fun.
Yep. Yep.
You're technically not allowed to because of our strict medical requirements.
They're pretty funny about keeping operational team guys completely on that operation,
Yeah,
no matter how
totally.
much we try and shuck and jive it.
Yeah.
And so it became an uphill battle that had to be ended. And at the Commodore level, they made that decision. Like, you've really got to go through the medical retirement process,
Right.
Or become on the permanent limited duty list, which means you can never leave never leave the U.S. And it's just wasn't worth it. So it made sense. It was an understanding that this made the most sense.
And so now you separate and you go through the transition of saying, all right, you fought so hard to stay on for so long, and the decision's made for you. Where in that space did you go, all right, I know what I want to do with my life? Or did you? And how long did it take to where all of a sudden you're like, hey man, I'm going to run for Congress?
Right.
Which is nuts, by the way. Yeah.
That's
I mean, that's...
Well, if you've been listening to this, to my story so far.
I got it.
Now have to go. Gotta go this route here.
Yeah. Well, okay. So leaving the teams, I think I still wanted to pursue my passions in public service. Right. That got me up in the morning. Knowing that I was serving, and I wanted that to keep getting me up in the morning. It was hard for me to imagine looking for a job in some kind of industry. I didn't know what that would be, but I did know I wanted to do a little bit more of the same and keep contributing that way.
I mean, because you went to Tufts. Had you gone to Harvard yet for masters or anything?
No, so this is where I was. This is where I made that decision. I'm transitioning. I should probably go to school, and do my master's degree. And so that's what I did. I chose Harvard because of its, obviously its emphasis on public policy.
Well, the New York school government is phenomenal. It's one of the best in the world.
And especially for domestic policy, if you're interested in U.S. politics and economics and national security policy, it's definitely one of the best.
Right.
So I did the mid-career program there, and graduated. I assumed that you would just get a job as soon as you graduate Harvard. It turns out that's not the case.
No.
I thought they just kind of signed you up for one.
Nope.
Yeah.
Harvard, right? I'm here.
And I've never looked for jobs before. I haven't. It's a different world. Transition.
Yeah, we just train for them.
Yeah.
To give us our jobs. We train for them.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. You're just gonna do really good at whatever job you get, but
someone's got to give me that job.
Right.
Yeah.
And no, transitioning it's not fun. We talk about it a lot in the veteran community, and it's a challenge. There's a lot of help out there. So there's almost too many organizations sometimes to choose from to get that help. But we're always looking for that next mission, especially as a SEAL. We're very mission oriented, and we care a lot about purpose and what is driving us and what is our purpose in life and what's our identity. I think those things are very powerful
and
for us.
Connected. They're connected. Identity and purpose are really interwoven together and very difficult to clearly define if you don't have that mission, right?
Right. I mean, you ask a lot of people what defines you, and somebody might say, "Oh, I'm Texan," or I'm a woman, or whatever. I'm not a woman. I'm not saying that.
No. I was confused. I was like, that's a whole new platform.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cut that part out.
Yeah. Check.
But for SEALs, 100% of the time, right? I think we just say SEAL. I think that's what defines us.
Yep.
And for everybody, it's different. But for us, we're
not too many professions where you can put a label on what exactly you are.
Yeah, and it matters a great deal to us. When you lose that, it's tough. And but at least I still had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to get into. I self-selected. I wanted to look only at national security jobs or just ways that I could make an impact on policy. I'd always been very, very interested in all kind of policy discussions, politics, and pushing for conservative values. And I'd been thinking about elected office for a while, but that opportunity hadn't really presented itself. And I figured I'm still young. That's more of a long-term goal. And worked with Pete Sessions for a while, Dallas congressman, really great guy. Took me in, and because my main goal was also reconnecting with Texas, where I grew up, and looking at maybe working for the governor or working for Ted Poe here in our district, and but Pete Sessions really took me in, and And then one day, Ted Poe announced retirement, and
Just like that.
Long
yeah.
story short, and you get the right people who are like, you really got to look into this. You have to do this. This is the right way for you to make an impact. And I'm like, I know it is.
Was there a delay in that, or was it like, hey, I'm going to retire, and everybody looks like the room stops, everybody goes, looks over at you and like, guess what? Right? Zero Dark 30, you made it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of
Searching for a path and one presents itself.
Bam. Nice.
That's
Sun Tzu shit.
what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
We've been doing this long enough now that you know when the door opens, when it's staring you in the face.
Right.
A lot of people can't see those markers like we can because of everything we've had to go through. But
They don't have the faith they exist. All right.
And it matters. You got to pay attention.
So it hits you. Was there, because it seems like, you and your wife have been through a lot of stuff together, man.
Oh, yeah.
And now you're out. You've got a master's from Harvard. You've made it through life and death situations. You're ready to go to start getting out there and making some money and changing the lifestyle. And all of a sudden, God says, guess what? You're going to keep serving. Was there a moment that you guys said, let's not do this? This isn't the right time. This is, maybe we're not prepared. Was any doubt or, did that play a role?
It was the conversations that occurred already, because like I said, we've been thinking about it for a while. So it's really about, the conversations were more around this specific situation. Like, what are the pros and cons? It was hard to find downsides to it. What are the downsides? I mean, yeah, putting yourself out there, and you're
Getting ripped apart.
We're going up against very wealthy opponents, and I expect them to fight us pretty hard, especially as we gain the momentum that we are. So yeah, there can be some downside, but if it's for the right reasons, we can overcome that, and we know that we are doing it for the right reasons. So,
well, what are those reasons? I mean, what do you actually think that you can do that nobody else seems to be getting done? And I'm sorry to turn this on you like this, but it's important. People want to hear what about you, your value system, your belief system, are you going to be able to bring to Washington and get done?
Right, and you ask yourself, like, what kind of representative do Texans deserve? And they deserve somebody not only that will vote their interest. Everybody in the race will vote their interest. But if you think you only deserve 1 out of 435 votes in the U.S. House of Representatives, well, that's only less than a quarter of a percent of influence. And I think Texans deserve a lot more influence than that. I think they deserve somebody with credibility who can speak to these issues, who's been there, done that, who's had people's backs. That is so important. You have to show up, and you have to be a lion for your cause and a champion for conservative values in order to be effective. You have to be somebody that others can look at and say, I'm going to work with this guy because he puts service before self, and he cares about the American people more than anything else. He didn't spend the last decade building wealthy connections and political capital. He spent it bleeding on the battlefield and caring about the American people and caring about service more than anything else. I didn't go to Harvard Business School, Harvard Law. I went to the Kennedy School because it's all about public service. And I always known that was the only thing I was going to be interested in. And that's how you make the impact. And it's all about impact and not just agreeing with the policies that we care about, pushing them forward and actually have an influence. And the last thing I'll say on that is it's also bringing people to our side who can make the most persuasive arguments and who can bring young people to our party. And our elected representatives should feel like a deployment, right? I don't remember knowing when it was Saturday when I was on deployment. Like, you just don't know because there are no weekends.
Exactly.
They don't exist.
I love that.
And it should be the same with an elected office. And you do have to work with everybody. That doesn't mean you give up your values and to fight for them. You have to. But you can find places where you can work together. And sometimes you see that. Sometimes, but oftentimes a lot of grandstanding. Sometimes people don't even know why they're arguing for something. We need people who really get these issues. And we look at the world around us right now, with the national security threats that we face. We need people who have actually been there, done that, have the recent relevant experience. because you can have your young staffer give you your set of talking points and then grandstand for a while, but that's not useful for the American people.
No,
It's not useful for our president as he faces these things. We need people in Congress who actually understand them.
well, I love those answers, and I know, being just from, I don't know a lot, but what I do know is there's this wave of veterans that are coming up and rising and continuing their servitude in politics. And I just want to commend you for making that decision, Dan. One, I think it's just badass that a Navy SEAL, a former teammate, a brother that's rogering up for that fight, which is the most important fight, to somehow bring a country back to the core value system that got us here in the first place. So I commend you on that, brother.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
As we end the show now, we always like to ask our guests, all right, and you've talked about some really powerful concepts of the never quit mindset here today. Can you kind of surmise what you've talked about and give some critical things that person right now that's hallucinating, in their house and don't know which direction to look, and the person that is unable to create the false reality or lie to themselves about the success? What are some things or some ideas that you think could catapult them forward to really give them a sense of, hey, I that never quit mentality, that thing that we all know so well because of our backgrounds? Just can you label a couple?
I think the way you get through any kind of hardship is you remember your purpose. And sometimes people have a hard time finding that purpose and realizing what their value is. And I would say this: you're crazy if you think that you don't have some kind of value to offer the world. And that should always be what gets you through something. Like, who is counting on you?
I love it.
And what kind of value do you owe the world? And you can't quit on that, because the world needs you and you're a part of it. And there is no other option, right? You can never give yourself that option out.
I love that, man. The value of what you owe the world. Man, that's genius, brother. I love it. Well, Dan, thank you so much. I know your schedule's insane. We really appreciate you coming to the Team Never Quit at HQ, for hanging us with us live. Where can people go find you, follow you, pay attention to this process, and just get on board if they want to support you? Well,
we need the support, so please support, and you can do that at CrenshawForCongress.com. That's CrenshawFor Congress.com, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter. Facebook is at Crenshaw for Congress, and Twitter is Dan Crenshaw TX. So please follow us, please support. You can buy T-shirts there. I mean, you can donate. We really need donations. We're going up against big money. We really need your help. So please. Awesome, brother. Well, God bless you in this journey, and just thanks for everything you've done for our country. Thanks for your service, and God bless you, and thanks for your continued service. Thank you for having me, guys. I'm honored to be here. Awesome. Once again, there's a team guy who came on our show who makes me feel like I'm lazy. Right, dude? He did 5 deployments, 2 after he lost his eyeball, right? He gets out, he goes to Harvard, and now he's running for Congress, man. Do we not come from the greatest bunch of mugs on the planet, or what? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. And I think, as we have more and more team guys on here, and we explore the other avenues of what they're actually capable of, because we're on the team to talk about the same stuff. All day, every day. Really. Right. And get to conversations like this, man, you'd have to go home and be with the family or something like that. So you really don't, you understand what they're capable of, and they'll never open up like this to each other, really. No. And we the capacities that we've seen it from all the team guys that have come on here. It's cool, man. And it's not a surprise you hear somebody talk like that, but it's cool to hear how far somebody can take it. You're right. We don't go into the kind of depth and description that we do on this show, even though we say a lot of things that in between the lines we understand. That's what's being talked about. it's the voice that you
Well
don't hear
put.
out. That's exactly what it is. We all know what you're talking about. We don't have to go into depth in it.
Right.
What I love, though, also is that whole concept, what you talk about is you spend the first 40 getting dialed in, the experiences, all that, and then post 40 or 30, whatever it is, you start to apply it at the next level and
Step
really
off.
where that servitude goes beyond just carrying a gun. Because there's a limitation, right? And we talk about this as podcasters now, and the fact that we've reached 4 million people, 4 million downloads. Our shows have been more downloaded 4 million times. That's infinitely bigger than any effect we had carrying that gun. Not to minimize the efforts we made in those capacity. It's just different, man.
And we're actually just giving back what was given to us.
I love that you put it that way, dude.
I mean, everything we ever learned was from the people we were giving it back to. Whether they knew it or not, they're the one that put us together. That's why America's greatest country, and what they created in the SEAL teams, that's a collective. The American people own that, right?
They
So
do.
that's why we go through the hell we have to go through just to get in, to have the right to have that much fun, training, and learn what we do there, because it's the ultimate training pipeline.
For sure.
Sea, air, and land specialists. That
Wow.
never stops. Our physical ability wears out, but our mental capacity
Improves
Yeah,
and gets
keep-
better
keep-
and better.
because we're not spending as much time in the physical realm.
For sure.
You know what I mean? It's offset a little bit. I mean, we still try and push ourselves and wind up getting hurt. And then you kind of slow down in your mental game. Then you got to game it.
Right.
The older we get, we figure it out. And that's the best part about it, man. There is no end, just death. Let's just keep going.
I love that.
I got a question for you guys that I don't think he brought it up, but we didn't really dig into the psychology behind it. This idea of self-deception, this belief that simply everything is going to work out fine, and refusal to take a, I guess, objective look at it, or at least an analytical, I see the positives, I see the negatives, I understand the percentage of success versus failure. How do you feel about that?
You mind if I hop in on this first? Because this is a big component of my life, and I'm a part of as a motivational speaker, as an author for that type of thing, and teaching people in the self-help genre, right? And what I do for a living. There's a whole misconception around self-deception. If I just read a self-help book and all of a sudden, like, I'm going to just have a positive attitude every day and blow stuff off or whatever, then somehow I'm going to develop the true nature of a never quit mindset. That's malarkey. His self-deception is tied to a reference point of development that comes through the improvement of his physical, mental, and spiritual pain. The recognition that going through training, that watching his mother die, that being in 2 hell weeks, going to combat, being blown up, man, he has the capacity to say, you know what, I'm gonna be okay, because he has a reference point mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
He's already got the proof. He's lived through it. He's
Yes.
seen examples.
Yes.
He's not just going into this blind hope. He's seen this in the past.
100%. So those listeners, as you hear these guests like this that have these stories, right, and say things like self-deception, it's not he's not blindly lying to himself about, hey, it's all rose-colored glasses, and we're using a lot of visual metaphors here, which is interesting because he's blind. But I think you have to recognize, you have to have a reference point of failure, of pain, that you can climb through those hardships, make it to where you start really believing, Marcus, what you were saying, man, that, man, I got beat down, but I'm going to be okay.
Well, I mean, you can label it whatever you want. That's what it is a label. Ultimately, it's just, I'm not going to quit. And not only that, I'm not going to think about the bad things that come if I was to quit. Because a lot of people do that, they're like, I got this powerful motivation attitude, but then they think about all the bad stuff that's going to happen. I don't even think about that. I think about that crap when it gets here. Other than that, and they're like, oh, it's gonna suck. It's gonna take forever. Well, I ain't got nothing else going on. I know that's a long path. I got it. I'm a long hauler anyways, low gear. So I mean,
I love
You
that
can send yourself
concept.
into a state of damn depression worrying about everything that's going to go wrong. I because of how we live, I know stuff can go wrong.
It does.
Yeah, I spend my life wanting it to, I can test myself in it.
Right.
So I don't get worked up about it.
I love
Oh.
it, man. That's a great question, Wizard. And that's something people got to understand. I think that was the key component of the key lesson learned with Dan's interview was that whole idea that you're not lying to yourself and creating a false future or false reality. What you're doing is you're just convincing yourself, man, you have what it takes. You have the intestinal fortitude. You have the mental strength. You have the faith. That belief that he talked about that will heal you no matter what pain you're going to endure. Is it going to bring his sight back? No, but that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about this ability to see the future of his own success because he was able to create the reality he wanted to manifest. That's the difference.
Most of the stuff is just what other people are worried about. Have you seen that Bridge of Spies movie where
Yeah.
he's sitting there talking? He's like, man, God dang, aren't you nervous? Would it help?
That is a great quote. I love that.
Would it help? And that's it, man. I mean, if we're outwardly showing that, and that's in the team environment. Hell yeah, I'm scared. This is my fear face.
Yeah.
I know it looks mean, but it's my fear face. And the more outwardly you got somebody crying and saying we're going to die, man, that's debilitating. People just even who have an inkling of this ain't going to work will fall accordingly like dominoes, man.
Right.
Overcome.
Hell yeah,
by
man.
this.
And you know what else I know? That the dude standing across me is equally as afraid. And you just kind of go down that list. Who you stand is man. Obviously, he's standing in front of me, man. So I am too. Let's go through the training thing and start running through that. You can do it in an instant of your background compared to what you think somebody's standing in front of you. And the more you push yourself, you get into these situations and these groups, right, where you're like, you know what? I've been through this, and I didn't see you there. So, right? And it's
Totally.
kinda, I mean, you tell yourself that. And sure, you're going to walk into situations where you get overwhelmed. That's part of it too, man.
Yeah.
Smile and we're like, hey, we found one. We found the next step up. You getting your ass handed to you, man. You're going in the right direction, right?
Totally. That's what I love about
Nothing
that.
grows without pressure.
Pain.
Nothing.
Nothing. I love it. Well, I tell you what, man, if you're a first-time listener, holy cow, once again, man, have you been treated with some deep wisdom from Dan, man. I mean, this is a guy that truly believes in servitude and serving his country. God, what a blessing for you to be able to hear his story. Also, if you're coming back, you're a repeat offender for us, man, we love you. Without you, we would be nowhere near 4 million downloads. And I just know it's because of the work you guys are doing out there for us. The work that you're sharing with your loved one that's struggling. The work you're doing with somebody you work next to and saying, hey, listen, I know you're struggling. Go to your iPhone. Here's your podcasting app. Subscribe to this podcast, the Team Never Quit podcast, because these guys, these Navy SEALs, they care. And they are delivering content that's positive, powerful, impactful, and meaningful for you. Download it, subscribe it, listen to it now.
And that's a very important point we don't talk about very much. We are almost 100% word of mouth driven.
Hands down.
That's how people find us. That is how the listeners have just been
That was the
accumulating around
That was
here.
the plan. Human.
Yep, human. And that's
It's word of mouth.
and that's the beauty of what we're doing, man. And if it's positive, that's the way it should be.
Oh, man, it's great. We're kind of creating our own little team underground. 4 million without advertising means it's on. It's just word.
That's how you build a high quality
Yeah, it's
community.
just word of mouth. By
Right?
the time it comes out, everybody's already known about it. And that's the power of people talking to each other and listening to each other's stories
And sharing their stories. How about the fact that we have this huge catalog of the fact that our listeners are so moved, they're so compelled that they summon this courage to submit their never quit story to us.
well, look at it like this. If everyone's like, I'm in this hole by myself, man, I always looked at it we're a family. America's a family. We're all in this together, meaning every problem together, and every problem kind of resonates throughout the country, just in a different capacity in some level, man. And it's how we take care of each other that
Through that collective
yeah,
pain.
you know, I mean, it's kind of that power push.
Amen. So what we're going to do now is we're going to wrap this show up. We've got this great story that the Wizard pulled for us, and thank you to all the people who submit, man. Thank you so much. If you send in a doozy, hey, we're gonna go through them. We're gonna post them. We're gonna put them on our community page on the website at tnqpodcast.com. Just find the place where you share your story with, right? We're going to post them. If they really get us in the feels, we're going to read it like we're going to read this story right now. If they're amazing and they really hit us, Marcus, what are we going to do?
Coming on.
You're coming on. You're going to be a guest listener that comes on that's going to be an active leader in terms of influencing people, the millions of people that are paying attention to our show, and we appreciate that. So, let's get into this one. This one's from Doug. I started listening to your podcast just a few days ago, but just tonight, I listened to your one from Tim Ballard. This podcast is awesome. It successfully brings the SEAL warrior mentality and Christian values together. Sometimes folks think to be a SEAL or any sort of special operations team member, you have to throw morals and ethics, etc., out the window. But clearly, that is all incorrect. And you guys are living proof. Thank you for serving and for your new mission of doing this podcast. The motto of never quit has always been in my life. I was born with ectodermal dysplasia, providing me with significant obstacles to overcome, ranging from bullying at school to 15 different surgeries. I don't make tears. I'm small. I look different, have thinner hair, and don't sweat like everyone else. My never quit story starts in 2001. For the next few years, God decided to test my faith and throw at me several things. A neck fusion, a brain tumor, a broken femur, and then a second brain tumor. Each time something came, I just said, okay, and rolled with the situation. I never gave up, and God provided me with an awesome body that heals quickly, so I only missed a handful of weeks during those 4 years. Despite these obstacles, I never stopped trying to achieve my goal of doing something bigger than myself. My proudest achievement, besides where I work now, is being a volunteer firefighter. I remember the first day I walked into the station. The chief asked me what I wanted to do, and of course, I said operations. He reluctantly agreed. I knew I had my work cut out for me, but eventually earned everyone's respect. I became a technical rescue and interior qualified. And during my initial training, I received a shirt from one of my instructors as a signal of my hard work and dedication, that I was one of his best students. I'm a bit crazy and thrive on adversity. If someone says no to something because they think I can't do it, I just want to do it even more and prove them all wrong. I hope this note inspires others to never give up, no matter what life throws at them. Doug, thank you so much for writing in. You've been through a lot, brother, but when you share that and have the courage to put that in, that just fires me up. It makes me think, my God, what a blessing we have for what we're doing here, me, Marcus, and a Wizard, and to the gratitude I have, the thanks I have to have God in my life, to have Christ in my life, the thanks I have, the gratitude for my children, my daughters, the gratitude I have for my family, my friends, for my teammates. And to be in the same community as Dan Crenshaw, what a privilege, what an honor, man, to be here and just be able to share a trident with that man. I'm so thankful for that. I'm also thankful for all our brothers that just have paid the ultimate sacrifice. All our brothers that are still serving at the highest possible levels, man. I'm just so thankful. I'm thankful to you two for wanting to do this with me and to have an impact on our listeners. So thank you for all of our listeners, man. But for us to be able to fulfill this mission, to help people in the way we're helping them by the millions, man, I'm just thankful to God.
Oh yeah, man. The listeners, man. Like I say, I didn't know I was special until I joined the military. It says Special Forces right there. I mean, anybody ever tells you that. And our American people told me that.
For the name tag.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I need that identity. It says special right there. See, I'm not an idiot. It is something, though. I think about it a lot. And, man, there are times that I just kind of I giggle out loud at it. They let us be Navy SEALs, and then they let us do this.
Crazy, right?
It's unbelievable.
That it is.
So thank you for that. And Crenshaw, man, just as usual, it's always good to hang out with a brother and get you, good on you, make it into my house. No, it's a open door policy for team guys, man. So it was definitely a learning experience, and that's the cool part too, man. Is when you get to peek behind all those curtains of each individual team guy we bring on, because there's a lot of that stuff we keep hidden, have to by design, right? It's not that we don't love each other, it's just like man, why didn't you tell me that? Yeah, I don't know, I was embarrassed,
Yeah, totally.
Something stupid like that. Like, man, I do the same thing. Really? Yeah, all right. But it is, man. It's something to see, and there are those days now, especially the longer that we're out. I'm like, man, God dang, it sure was an honor to be there.
Amen.
Right? Good Lord. Thank you for that. I'm out.
Out.